Hello, this video is going to show you how to write quotations or quotes for your news report. There are some terrible ways to write quotes and some good ones. So quotes are used in news reports to give it some real authority. So you can imagine yourself being a newspaper reporter. You get into the story and you actually talk to people who are involved, talk to people with meaningful opinions about the issue, and then you actually write down exactly what they say and you write it into your news report. So that's what we're doing here. So let's pretend that we got a quote from a famous person here involved in the story. And I could write a terrible quote where I just kind of summarize roughly what they say, but that's a bad idea. So that would look like this. Tony Stark. What did he do? Let's see here. How about Tony Stark said that it was easy to stop the villains. That's a terrible quote. It kind of roughly sums up maybe whatever he said, but this is how to do an excellent quote. So we can still start with Tony Stark, and then I'm going to put a comma, and then I'm going to give a detail about who this is. Don't assume that your readers know who the people talking are, even if they're famous. So I'm going to say Tony Stark, the famous weapons engineer and pilot of the, renowned Iron Man suit, comma, Iron suit, Iron Man suit. So this is a detail about who he is, and it's separated from the rest of the sentence by these commas. So then I'm going to put said, comma, quotation, and then I can begin my quote. So the way these commas separate it is that this sentence would read fine without this. So Tony Stark said, or Tony Stark, the famous weapons engineer and pilot of the renowned Iron Man suit, said. And sometimes you can hear people read like that. So what did he say? So let's give a word-for-word quote of what he said. So I'm going to say, it was too easy. I hope they bring their game next time. I've got a little extra H here. End quote. There we go, and that makes for an excellent quote because it's got a detail about who he is, and it was there's a full quote, exactly what he said. It's all there. Now, you don't have to do it in that order. We can grab some of the same things here. We can start with the quote, and then I'm going to put a comma in there because I'm not done yet. And then I can write said who? It's Tony Stark, the famous weapons engineer. One extra space here. There we go. It was too easy. I hope they'll bring their game next time, said Tony Stark, the famous weapons engineer and pilot of the renowned Iron Man suit. There's a third way you can do it, as you can split up the quote. So it looks like this. It was too easy, comma, quotation mark, then all this bit. Who he is, and put it right in the middle of his words. Now because up here in the original quote, this is a new sentence here, so it was too easy period. So I can leave this as a period as well, and then I'll put in the next sentence. And then I'll end it with a comma or a period there. So it was too easy, said Tony Stark, the famous weapons engineer and pilot of the renowned Iron Man suit. I hope they bring the game next time. Now in quotation grammar, if I leave this as a part of the same paragraph, it's assumed who is talking, sometimes even if it's in another paragraph. I don't have to write said Tony down here, because we know it's still him talking. So there's 3 different ways of doing excellent quotes. Of course, they can get more detailed. Rather than writing here who he is, if you've already said who he is in a different quote, you could write something like said Tony. If you've already said his full last name, you can just use his second name or his first name. And another quote, said Tony as he dusted debris, let's say, off his shoulder. Period. It was too easy, said Tony as he dusted debris off his shoulder. I hope they bring the game next time. That's another way you can do it. Rather than a detail about him, you can have a detail about what he's doing. Alright, so I hope that's helpful. So use lots of those in your news reports and it'll spice them up and make them fantastic. Good luck.